Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. Before I start this tutorial, I just want to show you about priming my canvases, alright? I have a 16 by 12 canvas board, okay? It's just a regular cheap canvas board. I get a lot of questions about priming and that kind of thing, so I thought I would just show you how I prime my canvases. It's a medium grain canvas. You can get rough grain, fine grains as well for detailed work, but I prefer to use medium grain. It just has a lovely feel to it. So it's just a regular budget canvas, okay, 16 by 12, and they generally give these just one quick coat of primer. So I always tend to prime my canvases just once, just to give it an extra bit of protection, and it stops the paint soaking through very quickly. It allows you to blend colours nicely together as well, and the paint will stay wet for longer. So I'm going to prime this, and I'm then going to paint a lovely tutorial. Now, the tutorial I'm going to paint is, I was hoping to do something with a forest this week, but a patron then asked me, could I paint some kind of sparkly water? Do you know when sun hits the water and you get those lovely kind of sparkly effects around on the water? Patron asked me would I paint something like that for them, so I thought, look, just for the last bit of water tutorial, I'd paint that. So it's kind of a close-up of water with all the ripples and then these little sparkly effects coming off of the water here and there. So I thought, just to finish off, I'll do that one for my patrons. Yes, let's prime this canvas and I'll show you what I do when I'm priming canvas. Okay, so here's my canvas. Now what I use is really just a very old brush, okay, and I use undercoat, just a regular household undercoat, okay, you can see it there, interior or exterior wood and metal, pure brilliant white undercoat. Now this is an oil based undercoat. You can use water based if you like. I prefer to use oil based undercoat because you're using oil paints, it just has a nicer feeling when you're painting on it, and it just mixes nicer on the canvas. So I buy a big tin of this. Well, this is a small tin. This only costs about €10. Now what I do is I will get an extra empty tin, something like this, or an extra empty jar or something. I'll pour half of this in to another tin, and then what I'll do is I'll fill this with turpentine. Well, I won't fill it, but I'll put an extra 30% of turpentine into this, give it a good mix. So then realistically you're getting 2 tins out of one, and this one tin will last me about, I suppose I might get about 40 or 50 canvases out of this. Now if you compare that to gesso are very small tins and they can't really be thinned out as such. So with a tub of gesso, you're probably getting 20 canvases and it's costing about 15 to 20 euros. So I think for value for money, this will do the very same job, exactly the same, but you'll get, you might get an extra 100 canvases, okay, for the same price. This is actually cheaper. So I fill this then with a lot of turpentine and make it nice and thin. So it's nice and thin and creamy. Can you see that? Now it's not too thin, you can see it? It's not too thin. I could even thin this out a little bit more, but I think it's okay. So it's just kind of running off of the brush. It's not running very quickly off of the brush, but it's a nice thin undercoat paint. That's it. Now I simply just give my canvas one coat of this. So let's get my canvas. Now what I did with my canvas before I prime it is I always take a very fine sandpaper like this. It's a very, very smooth. This is very old. Okay, I had this years. Very, very smooth sandpaper. Very smooth grit. Just give it a once over, okay? Like that. That just takes the roughness off of the canvas. Now already I can feel this is lovely and smooth. I could use this. If I gave it a coat of linseed oil and started painting, it's lovely and smooth. The roughness has gone off it, but I will give it one quick coat of undercoat as well. Look, just very quickly, and one brush full of undercoat would probably do most of this. I normally give it two brush loads and drag that undercoat all around your canvas. I really only want to give this a quick coat, that's all. There we go. All the way across, and that's it, it's finished. So I put my top back on my tin, put my brush into some turpentine to leave that clean, and that is my canvas primed, okay? I don't know if you can see a sheen on that. So I leave this for about an hour to dry, and when it's dry, I go over it then very quickly again with my sandpaper, just very quickly once. And then you'll have such a smooth canvas. It's fantastic. So for blending water and skies and all that kind of thing, it's really, really wonderful. It has a very smooth finish, almost like a very fine primed canvas, okay? So that's it. My canvas is primed. I'm going to let this dry for an hour, and we'll do this beautiful painting. Somebody asked me on my Patreon page, one sec, let me just turn the camera. Let me just move the camera up there slightly. I do apologise. Someone on my Patreon channel asked me, could I try my hand at sparkly water? Now, I do have a lot of tutorials on water, but nothing with real sparkly water. Do you understand? So I said, look, I'll just try this. Let's see how we get on. It's going to be a lovely, colourful one. So I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think about this. If you have any questions, please just do ask, all right? I'll let that dry. I get my colours ready on my palette, and we'll paint something nice, okay? Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. Okay, my friends, here we go. This is my canvas, prepped, dried. I put some masking tape across the horizon line, and there's a reference photograph. It's just nice, eye-catching, and I'm going to bring an extra bit of sparkle into that water, okay? A little bit of sparkle. So, concentrating on creating intense light on water, okay? I hope you enjoy it. I'll tell you what colours I have. I have titanium white, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow pale, phaylo blue, cerulean blue, lamp black, magenta, alizarin crimson, cadmium red, and burnt umber. I just put burnt umber on there just for a couple of little touches here and there. So let's do this. I have some linseed oil with turpentine for my thinners. I have some paper towels. What I'm going to do first is, because I want lots of blending on this, I'm going to give this sky first a nice coat of linseed oil, okay? And that's just to help keep it nice and wet. It's similar to using, I suppose, a liquid clear, but I just find the linseed oil, the texture of it when you're painting is just much nicer, okay? The liquid clear is very, very wet. The linseed oil is not too wet, not too slippery. I think it's just right. So it's just regular linseed oil, okay? Artist linseed oil. This will last you for probably years, okay? So let's start. Now, I'm going to get a nice small brush. I could use a big brush for this, but you know what? My big brush has gone very, very tough and very hard. I don't know if this is going to work. I'll try it. Let's try it. Just get any big brush you have, okay? Dampen it and dry it. And this is fairly dry now, okay? It's not too wet at all. I gave it a good dry on the tissue. Let's take some white and cerulean blue, I would say. And I want to get a lovely light right in the center to imagine there's a bright sun off in the distance that you can't see because it's so bright. So let's get some cerulean blue and some white. A little bit goes a long way. And that's fine, look, that'll do me fine, absolutely fine. Let's pop that across. The sky in this anyway is very, very bright. Very, very brighty, bluey, whitey colour. Now, as I come down, I'm going to take some more white, and I'm going to take a little hint of Naples yellow as well. The Naples yellow will just give it that bright luminosity in the blue, okay? Bright greeny kind of a blue, very, very bright. A little bit more towards the centre. And let's just put this out all over the sky, everywhere. So that little bit of linseed oil now is really helping. It just keeps it nice and slippery on the canvas. Here we go, like that. And you probably can't see this now, with the camera. It just probably looks white to you. I'm taking some Naples yellow with some white, and I'm going to pop that across the bottom. That's going to give me a lovely glow across the horizon, just along there. And up on top, I'm going to darken the cerulean just slightly. Give it just that little bit more, tiny, tiny touch more, okay? Down to the sides and create a kind of curve, slight curve in the colour up in that sky. Just like that, look. And then soften it across very gently. Now, okay, that's not bad. I think it might need to be slightly darker, just up on top. That's a bit better, I would say. And let's just go around again, around the edges, bring it down on the sides. I want it kind of coming in from the top corners. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go around like this first in a curve. Okay. Then I'm going to kind of soften it across. The linseed oil is really helping now with this. It creates, you see, the thing about the linseed oil is it creates a certain amount of drag on the canvas. So it's not just very wet going everywhere. It's allowing me to soften colours together. It's creating that little touch of drag across the canvas. You'll see what I mean if you use it. There's a lovely little drag on the canvas and it allows you to blend colours really nicely together. Now I'm going to clean the brush very quickly. Just very, very quickly. And I'm going to take again, for that bright spot, little Naples yellow and some white, okay? Now there's a bit more yellow in this colour, I would say, just to create that nice blast of light right in the centre. And then work it upwards and outwards, okay? Lovely brightness there now. Then I want to take some white and pop some white just along the middle. I just want to keep this sky now nice and simple, okay? Nice and simple. So I think that's good enough. Let me have a look. Yeah, that's all I want. I'm just going to soften it again slightly, just outwards across the bottom. And we're done with the sky, my friends. Sky finished. I know this kind of a scene might not be to everybody's taste, but I just thought it would be nice to do an in-depth tutorial on close kind of water with sparkles on it and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to take my time with this. If I have to do a part 2, I will do a part 2. I don't mind really, but I want to create a nice kind of almost realistic kind of a scene. But, you know, I'm not going to go for photograph, obviously. Some of you may like to go for photographic kind of representation, but I prefer just to keep it in painting, oil painting. So, if we look at the colours, I can see cerulean blue, little phaylo blue. I can see quite a bit of magenta in that as well. So, light turquoises with a hint of pink going through it here and there. That kind of a colour. So I'm going to start with that. Now, I think I'll keep to my big brush for this, to get all of this undercolour covered in. Then we'll start working in our darks and some of our lights, okay? So if you look at the medium shade and all of this, is kind of a nice soft greeny turquoise, isn't it? So let's make that. I'm going to dampen my brush just slightly. In fact, do you know what I will do? Let's put some linseed oil on this. Let's make this nice and slippery. Just a little slippery. It's not going to be very, very slippery. But I like to do this when I'm painting large seascapes like this. Now this canvas is only 16 by 12. It's not that big, it's quite small. But this little touch of linseed oil I find will really help soften my colours together, okay? It'll make a big difference. Now you can, as I said, if you want to use liquid clear, you can try liquid clear. Or you could just try a little turpentine on its own if you don't have linseed oil. A little bit of turpentine just to dampen your canvas a little. That'll keep the colours wet for longer, okay? I find with a lot of cheaper canvases, colours tend to kind of soak in very, very quickly before you have a chance to mix and soften. Now, let's try this. Let's get some white. And let's get some cerulean blue. Beautiful colour. The perfect colour for seascapes, cerulean blue. And I'm going to take a little hint of Naples yellow as well. That will help just give it that slightly green kind of a tinge. A slightly green hue to the colour, okay? So I'm going for a kind of a greeny turquoise. Let me just have a look at this now. Okay, I think I'll go with that for now. And you see that oil, it's making it lovely and slippery, look. But again, it's not too slippery. Take some more cerulean. I might just blow it up slightly, just a little. I'm going to go up then to the horizon line, push down hard, and go right across under there. Take your time, nice and slowly. If you find there's a little bit of a wiggle, and it's not perfectly straight, just go across it again. And it doesn't matter because we are going to be softening this into the sky slightly. So there's a nice kind of a dark blue up there just to help with the contrast, just to separate the sky from the ocean. Let's come on down to about here. Okay, I come down about halfway on the ocean. Then I'm going to start riching my colours, being slightly richer. So I'll take cerulean blue now, and I'm going to take a hint of magenta. As I was saying earlier, there's a slight hint of a kind of a pinky hue, a pinky turquoise, kind of popping into the seascape here and there. It's a lovely colour. And again, this is just the kind of the undercoat that I'm painting, all right? I'll put lots of lights and darks on top of this. So I'm going for the medium shade. Now it's coming down, so I'm going to get slightly stronger. I'll take some cerulean blue with phaylo blue and a touch of magenta, just a touch. Now be careful because that magenta is very strong, okay? But plenty of cerulean blue and a little touch of phaylo. Let me take a look at this now. Okay, a hint of Naples yellow, just to tone down that blue slightly. See the difference? We have a slightly more of a greeny colour, just from that Naples yellow. It's a wonderful colour. Let's pop this in. I want to cover all this canvas now. Let's just, and you can see I'm using quite thin coats. You can see right through to the canvas, look. So I'm using thin coats of colour. I'm not putting on very thick pasty paint, because if you do that, it's going to be very difficult to separate colours on the canvas, okay? Because you need to work up in thinner layers, I find, but especially with oils. Starting with thin layers and adding slightly thicker paint on top, that will help the colours stick much better. Now, I'm going to sit back now and just have a fast look at that. Okay, I'm going to fix the exposure on my camera there, okay? Just for a moment. And there we go. Okay, now what I'm going to do is soften that horizon line. I have a nice soft brush, and I'm just going to go across this a couple of times, okay? Just to try and take the edge off of that line, make it nice and hazy. See that? Just mixing those two shades together, the white and the blue, mix them together ever so slightly. Alright, now that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to start putting some nice darks in down here. Okay, I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to take some phaylo blue. I'll take a little touch of thinners as well, alright, just a touch. Just to help thin the paint out a little. Phaylo blue, a little magenta, and a little black, okay? So I want a nice dark bluey grey kind of a shade. Maybe a hint of Naples yellow as well. So that will give us that slightly greeny blacky kind of colour. Do you understand what I mean? I'm going to just go right across it first with this colour. Softening it upwards. Look, just very loosely. Go along and soften the way up. All the way. There you go. Now I should have stapled my canvas onto the backboard here because it's moving around. I do apologise. Like that. And I'm going to take some really dark colour then, some black. And I'm going to take some cerulean blue and some Naples yellow. Okay. And it's a very dark colour. So I'm going to start now putting in some of these little swirls. You see some of them there? one or two coming down like that. I'm going to soften that in. I may add a touch of blue actually to this. We have a big one, comes up and comes down like that, don't we? And now at this stage I'm only just kind of going for the direction, that's all, okay? I should probably use a smaller brush really, but look, this is fine. Let's take some more blue and a hint of magenta in that. And we have a nice dark then, it kind of comes across. This is nice and dark over here, isn't it? And I'm really just creating the movement right now, that's all. Okay, now I think it's time to put this brush down and move on to a slightly smaller flat brush. Okay, I have a nice little flat brush here now with a lovely edge. That's exactly what I need to create nice little edges, nice sharp clean edges. So I'm going to start introducing some slightly darker colours into all of this. I'm going to take some cerulean blue and a little magenta. I can see that wonderful colour higher up there. Now I'm going to mix plenty of this, okay? Don't be shy, and a little thinners. A lovely rich, warm, bluey, greeny kind of a colour. Now I'm simply going to just start popping little suggestions of little waves. Maybe a hint more magenta. And it's quite simply, look, just lots of little swirls here and there. It's just, again, to create movement, isn't it? That's all. And you can see I'm even letting the brush disappear into the distance as well. Just allowing the brush to take little touches of it off here and there. And at this stage now I'm just being very loose, okay? And the thing about this type of thing is, as it comes closer to you, you will start seeing a bit more detail and it'll become a little stronger. Does that make sense? And I'm hardly even looking at the reference photograph. I'm just using it really to get a sense of the motion of the water. You know, a lot of this now I'm just kind of putting in myself, going my own, just having a bit of fun with the brush. Okay, that's really what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, let's come on down here. A couple of nice ones in the center. Take a hint more magenta just for that center area. There seems to be a lovely pinky glow on some of the lights in the center. And everything is just loose, swirly movements, okay? Nice and loose. Now you can, of course, if you have your own technique for doing this, please do use your own technique. So whichever makes you comfortable. You don't necessarily have to follow my technique. Do you understand what I mean? Now I'm going to soften some of those off in the distance there. Look, soften them back into that nice oily paint. We will have a lot of lights and darks now as well going through this. So if you're like this and you're thinking, no, it just doesn't look right yet, don't worry. We have a lot of other colours going through all of this. I'm going to soften all of this out slightly. You can see this is still lovely and wet and slippery. So the oil really is helping. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm building up. I'm just slowly building up my colours. So I've cleaned the brush. I'm going to start putting on some cerulean blue, just on its own, I think. Just a little hint of cerulean blue, maybe with a little white. There's a beautiful cerulean blue colour popping through here and there, I can see. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of that in here and there as well. So I'm simply just going around now, just very loosely, putting some of this in. Okay, I'm not covering that pinkier colour too much, but I can see lots of this beautiful cerulean turquoisey, greeny blue here and there. It's really a lovely colour. So you can see now we're building up our layers a bit more each time. And for me, painting seascapes like this, I'm not trying to paint a photograph, but I find building up the layers like this, one piece at a time, is really the most effective method. A lot of people will go right in there with a very dark colour and start working up their lights. I just find, for some reason, doing it this way, it just gives me a lot more control. So I can kind of make slight changes as I go along. Does that make sense? Now, let's just keep going. Now, I don't have much thinners in this paint at all, okay? It's just, most of this is just paint on its own because the canvas is still kind of quite slippery anyway. So I'm being very careful not to make it overly wet. All right, now we have a couple of nice swirls coming down this way here. And for me, I think the trick to this painting will be putting in the lights later on. So I'm going to be very brave and put in lots of strong darks in a moment. And what will bring the painting to life is those brights. That's really when you start to see the painting jump to life, okay? So I'm just looking now very quickly at the direction of all of these swirls. We have a couple of nice bright ones down here. And for me, the secret with all of this will be softening all of these colours together. Now I'm going to take some phaylo blue, little turpentine, and a touch of white, okay? So I'm just going to pop a very rich kind of a blue in, just here and there. And the secret I find, well, you can see for yourself when I'm doing this, I'm not making any straight lines. Everything has a slight movement to it, you see? There's no straight lines. It's all nice swooping brush strokes. Some more phthalo, a little white. That just gives it a nice luminosity to the colour. Pop up here and pop a little few of those in. And this will all come together, I promise. Well, I hope. I hope it comes together nicely. But we will be softening a lot of this together. Okay, I know it just looks like a lot of swirls at the moment, but when these darks now start going in, you're going to really see the painting start to spring to life. Well, that's the plan. That's my plan. You have to have some kind of a plan. And let's just hope the plan works out. Isn't that right, my friends? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's just the nature of painting, okay? I'm never going to be 100% happy with every single painting I create. There's always going to be little parts of that painting where I think I should have done this different, or I should have moved this to that side, or I should have used this colour instead of that colour. But that's what it's all about. That's the learning process. Now let's sit back and take a look. Okay, I think it's time to start introducing some really nice darks into this. First of all, I'm going to just soften. See, I'm just going to soften out all of these distant brush strokes first. And you see what happened? I picked up some white on my brush and I went onto the canvas. But look, let's just soften it in. Little happy accident, that's what I'd say it was. Move the brush, look, and swoop those colours around. Keep that direction going. Okay, I'd say that's not bad. Yes, I'm happy enough with that so far. Right, I'm going to clean this brush. I'll stick with this brush. By the way, I'm using, I can't even see the number on this brush, it's just worn off. I think it's a number 8 or number 10 large, flat. All my brushes are synthetic, soft brushes, okay? Just like this. Just like this, nice and soft. Let's start getting some real dark colours on, and I'm going to add some thinners into this now to make plenty of paint, okay? I'm going to start with black, lots of black. Then I'm going to go into some phaylo blue. Then I'm going to go into some magenta. That'll give us that lovely pinky colour. Again, some more phaylo. And then finally some cerulean. The cerulean is a very opaque colour, like Naples yellow. So if you're using cerulean blue, it really helps thicken the paint up and gives it good coverage. That's what I love about cerulean. I might take a touch of Naples yellow as well. Again, you see, that thickens the paint up. Now we have a lovely rich colour here. Greeny, dark greeny, grey, bluey kind of a colour, okay? Very dark colour. And let's start picking out some of these. So look, we have a nice one here, don't we? Let's go up and pick this out. And then leave a taper off like that. And I'm going to soften then underneath that, look. I'm creating different shades underneath that, you see? So the beauty of this is it's picking up the colours underneath and creating lights and darks as you go. You see what I mean? And I love when that happens. Now we have another little one around here, look. There's a lovely dark one here. That one has a bit of direction going up like this. I might take a little more cerulean, just to make it a little touch more on the greenier side. And these ones in particular, I want to be quite dark because they will pick up the highlights later. Soften them out then, look. I'm softening them out underneath, down into the colour underneath. Dragging them across nicely like that. Another nice little one up there. Again, I'll soften that one down. And I'll taper a small couple of them then off into the distance, because I don't want two separate seascapes on my painting. I want all of this to kind of transition slowly upwards and disappear out. So I'm going to just kind of pop a couple of small ones then just off in the distance up there. Just to help it all kind of disappear off up into the distance. Okay? So a couple of small ones just bobbing up and down here and there. And just be very gentle with your brush. Okay? Don't go right in there and put loads of paint on. Just take your time. Take your time. It's nice and slow. Nice, and if you're what I try to do is I put my mind into the wave, okay? So I'm thinking I'm a wave, you know, thinking the feeling of it. Look at it and just imagine the flowiness of the water, okay? So, and that really helps. So put your mindset into your paintings. Look nice and soft, and everything is softly moving around together like so, and it really does help. So we're getting there now. We're getting darker and darker and darker. We'll keep adding more and more darks each time. Bit more magenta, I'm going to just start making it slightly more pink as it comes down. The nice dark one here comes down like that. Stops there, doesn't it? And this then, again, softens away. And it gets generally dark down in this corner, doesn't it? And again, remember, just those lovely sweeping motions with your brush. Just have some fun. I'll take a touch of thinners every now and then, just to help the paint move around. Because even though there's a lot of paint still on my canvas, putting the fresh new colours on top, you do want them still to kind of flow naturally, okay? So a little touch of thinners with the corner of your brush, just to thin that paint ever so slightly. It really helps. Okay, now I'm going to go up here and start working on this area. I'm going to start taking some more cerulean blue with phaylo and just soften a touch more bluey shades through here and there. So you can see what I'm doing, just kind of adding little touches. And already now you can see it's starting to form that kind of that 3D effect. It's starting to form ever so slowly. But take your time, this is a work in progress. Don't, you know, what I find a lot of artists, beginners especially, and amateurs as well, trying to do is to try and finish everything in one brush stroke. Do you understand? So just take your time, look at your reference photograph and just put in your colours one at a time. Don't try and finish one whole wave with just one brush stroke, because it's lovely, but this way is much more fun, I think. Much more fun. Now I'm going to go much darker here, okay? I'm taking black, lots of black. Plenty of thinners in this, make it nice and soft. Some phthalo blue. And again, I'm going to start darkening them, a little more magenta as well. I'm going to then start really going for some nice darks in here. And the trick with all of this now is to kind of soften them together as well. So I'm going to go up here, put that one in there like that. With a couple of, just kind of look loosely at your photograph. Where you see those darks, just pop them in. Because you can always soften them back in later and add extra colours to them. Okay? Just remember that. You can kind of see now the effect I'm getting. Just lots of movement in this water. And as I said, just take your time. There's no rush with this whatsoever. All right? No rush. I prefer to take my time and enjoy the painting rather than rushing just to get something finished. It's much more rewarding, I think. Just take your time. And of course, look, with everything I do here, I'm learning as well, all the time. Every single time I put a brushstroke on this, I'm learning something about painting. Even though I may have painted 50 of these types of scenes already, I'm still learning new things. New little brushstrokes that make a big difference, and a different way of painting a crest or whatever. You know, it all just helps. It really does. You're learning all the time. That's why I love painting so much. No two paintings will ever be the same. You'll always learn something new with each painting. And that's why I just love it so much, painting. It's fantastic. It's very rewarding. Now, let's get some nice dark colours. I'm going to get some nice dark here. I'm going to get another one here. And of course, I know none of this probably makes sense right now, but when I start putting lights in, then you'll see why I did all this, okay? So I'm focusing on all the dark areas of the painting and all the lights, all the medium shades, before I put in my last bright highlights. That's generally how I work with oils. You can, if you like, put in all your darks first and work up your lights. It's the same thing. I just find this gives me a lot more control. Now I have very little thinners in this as well, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm putting on slightly thicker and thicker shades as I go. Okay? And because I'm doing that, they stick much easier. They don't become kind of messy. So they're sitting nicely on the canvas for me, and they're not mixing together and creating a big mess. So it's coming together. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I mean, if it's not your cup of tea, at least you can see just a nice tutorial, I suppose. Pass away a little half hour for you, you know, just sit down with your coffee and have a look. And at the end of the day, if I inspire you to pick up a brush, then I've done my job. That's what I wanted to achieve. Because I find there's far too much tutorials out there which just flick through it very quickly in time lapse, and they don't talk and they don't tell you what they're doing. It's frustrating to say the least. Even when I look at them, I think, you know, just tell people what you're doing with your brush and what colours you're mixing at least. Just try to connect with your audience a little bit. Okay. And I hope that's what I'm doing. Now I'll stop for a moment. You see, we're building everything up nice and slowly. I think it's time now to start softening some of these together. I'm going to go with a smaller, soft brush, and I'm just start going to soften some of these into the shades underneath, okay? Because at the end of the day, I want to create a nice soft effect. And because it's nice and oily now, it's working much better for me. If this was a kind of a dryish canvas, a lot of these brush strokes would be kind of drying into the canvas slightly, and they wouldn't soften out very well. But I think now, because of that little bit of oil, it's really helping. Just to take the edge off of those brush strokes, okay? That's all I want to do. And at the same time, I'm also creating the direction of the brush strokes as well. You see how I'm moving my brush in the same direction? So it's also helping to create that movement in the water. So I hope I'm making sense. Okay, let me stop now for a moment and take a look. Now, we're getting there. I could, if I wanted to, just put this on quickly and do a very quick tutorial. It probably would have turned out just as nice, but when painting something like this, it's nice to just take your time and really, really take your time. Let's go for some really, really black colours. Let's take lamp black. I also have a little turpentine in my brush, okay? Just to make it nice and slippery. Lots of black, and I'm going to go with some magenta. Now, I did have crimson and cadmium red on my palette. I may use them. In fact, I might take a little cadmium red as well in this, just to create a warm blacky colour, okay? Now I'm going to try this. And I'm simply looking at the darker shades and I'm just pulling them where the darker ones are, okay? And softening them out. So here, for example, there's a nice little dark just there, isn't there? And then just here and there, you can see how I'm kind of twisting my brush. Twisting my brush to kind of follow the smoothness of the wave, follow that direction. You see? And we have another one, kind of a pointy one, almost like a pointy one, isn't it? Just there, and I'm very gently touching the canvas. I'm hardly touching the canvas when I'm softening these away. Okay, I'm hardly touching, I'm very lightly lifting off. Look, just like that. Just feel the softness of the wave. Try to feel it. Try to imagine the softness. A little one just here and there. Again, just to bring the darks up slightly. So I know there's a few around up here as well. Just one or two. And I am adding my own in as well to match the composition, okay? I'm not looking at the photograph every 2 seconds. I'm just getting a sense of most of those darks. So I'm putting on a pinky black now, a nice kind of a pinky black. And then leave it soften away, look. Go around the edges, soften it out, nice and soft. Now I'll sit back a moment, take another look. Okay, and we still have all these brights to put on now as well, so don't worry, it's not by a long shot finished. We have loads of lighter blues to put on. So I'm just kind of focusing right now on all of these lovely darks, these rich dark colours. We have a nice little one that kind of comes out like that and it disappears over like that, okay? Nice and squiggly. Don't forget to make it nice and squiggly, look. And then a very rich dark around here. Another touch of turpentine. Some black and some crimson. We'll go with some black and some crimson this time. And this will add a touch of a warm pink into all of this. A little bit coming into the picture down on this side. Nice dark in here. Okay. And you can see it's not exactly the same. And I know it's not exactly the same as the reference photograph. And I don't want it to be exactly the same. I just want to take the general idea of the reference photograph and put my own colours in. Put my own twist on it. Just a little bit. Just add my own little shapes here and there. And who knows what will happen, okay? That's the beauty of it all. Who knows? Now I'm going to take a little phaylo blue. I'm just going to pop a few more little darks in just here and there. Slightly higher up, okay? Just a couple. Just to bring a few of them off into the distance. You see, just little tiny flicks. And I think then I'm going to go with some really black, real intense black, okay? That's what I want to get next. Really, really intense black. So let's take some lamp black, pure lamp black on its own. And plenty of thinners in that, okay? Let's mix up lots. I'll take a hint of magenta. Again, it won't look like there's any difference, but the magenta will just warm it ever so slightly with the colours underneath. So this one in particular, very dark shade just there, soften it down. And we have another little bit of it showing in here. So you can see the way I'm softening them into the shades around them, look. Just going around the edge. This one is quite dark. Then it cuts across like this, doesn't it? And soften it all in together. Just pick out little areas where you think it's really dark and black. One or two along here. I just want to really show off those brights when I'm doing those sparkles. I really want to show them off just along the center here. And a little bit of it just up here. Now I'm going to move to a smaller brush in just a moment. I'm going to take some cerulean blue and pop a little cerulean blue in here and there, look. In fact, I'll clean my brush because as I done that now it looked quite nice. And it was just something I tried and it actually looks quite nice. So I'll take more cerulean blue. Clean that brush. It doesn't have to be spotless. Let's just go right into some cerulean blue on its own. Lots of thick cerulean blue, look. You see that? And let's just pop a hint of cerulean blue with the tips of our brush through here and there, okay? Because that lovely little touch of cerulean, it starts to bring everything to life. See? Now I like that, that's quite nice. So I'm going to start popping some of that in. Here and there. I keep my brush clean as I'm doing this. I just keep switching my brush and just keep giving it a wipe in that cloth to keep the colour clean on your brush. Lots of thick paint on its own, okay? And just let that thick paint roll off. So now, isn't it starting to come to life? Isn't it just a little bit? It's slowly building up. Now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go in around that as well. Add plenty in around the centre. Now I'll sit back a moment and take a look. It's starting to show some life, isn't it? And this is my favourite part of a painting. You know when you get so far and suddenly it starts coming to life and you think, yes, that's exactly what I want now. This is really coming together. And this is when it happens, when you start just putting on these lighter colours with just paint, no thinners, and the whole thing starts coming to life and starts jumping off of the canvas. That's my favourite part of a painting. So all of this progress that we did up until now, it's all starting to show, and you can start to see why we did all of this and how it's helping, okay? All right, now I am going to soften some of those distance ones, just soften them out slightly, okay? I just want to take the edge off of those distant brush strokes like that. Look, just soften them together nicely. And a soft brush really helps for this, and it just really makes such a difference when you're painting something like this, I find. Just taking the edge off of some of them. Just do odd one here and there. Don't do everything, but just the odd one. Okay. I'm going to sit back now and take a look. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, if I may say so myself. It's not bad at all, is it? The next thing I'm going to do is get a small pointy brush, and I'm going to pop some real darks in just to refine some of the edges on some of those darks, if you understand what I mean. So I'm going to take some black, lots of watery black, okay? Just black on its own, small pointy brush. And for example, I'm going to just start, you see what I mean? Just refining some of the edges, just to give it a little bit more shape, you see? And remember, you're allowing all of these then to just disappear off and kind of soak in, blend into the colours behind. So do you think it's starting to come together? I think so. I think it's starting to really start to come to life. I'm going to just refine a few up here, look. Just a couple. Just one or two. Just going along the edges and just refining some of those edges. Okay. I think that will do for now. The next stage, I would say, is I'm going to go now for a smaller flat brush, a slightly smaller one. I'm going to start putting in some lights, okay? I'm going to dampen this brush, a nice small flat edged brush. I'm then going to take some white. So now we're going to start building up our lights. White with cerulean blue, and because we're going on top of thick paint, I'm going to just thin this slightly, okay? Just a little turpentine, because if I put very thick paint on top of this, it may get a little bit messy. So I'm adding a touch of turpentine just to help the paint flow off of my brush much easier. I'll show you what I mean. So for example, where it starts getting light, I'm just going to start popping little swirls in. Little lighter shades, especially around the center. A lot of these lights are just down on the center of the painting, aren't they? So let's concentrate on that. I'll try some phthalo blue with white. That should really start brightening. And you can see I'm just kind of darting around here and there with these lights. More phthalo blue, I think. Let's get it nice and bright. A nice rich bright kind of a blue, okay? Now particularly here, there's a lovely light kind of going across in the front, particularly close down to the front here. You can see there's a lot of movement. And I'm really being very loose with this now. I'm not trying to copy the painting exactly, okay? I'm just being very loose. Okay, stop now for a moment. Let me just stop briefly. I'm going to then start again softening some of these. So the routine here is put on some paint and soften. I find that's probably the best way forward, isn't it? Just soften each stroke as you go. Okay, I might start trying some brights, and I think I'll start with the small pointy brush first, okay? And what I'm going to do is take some white, a lot of white, just a hint of blue, and I'm going to just start trying and see what happens. So for example, I have a nice little light there, which sort of just disappears. So I'm just looking, and I'm just looking to see where these little lights are going and where they're coming from. Okay, just like that, just little touches. I'm looking at my time. I am 45 minutes in, and I'm thinking I may make a part 2 of this because I want to take my time with all of these lights. I don't want to rush. So look, I'm just going to start putting in little touches of lights here and there, and you can see the way I'm sort of dabbing the brush as I go, and that's just creating little touches of sparkle here and there. Now I will be adding more kind of flicks and stuff like that, but for now I'm just going to pop in a few of these lights, just start lightening here and there. Okay, so you can see it now starting to come together, starting to lighten slightly. Now my friends, I'm going to call that part 1 finished, okay? I hope you don't mind. I know when you're watching a video you like to really get into it and get to the end and see it coming together, but I'm just going to let that, maybe just let it sit for an hour, maybe 2 hours, and I'll come back to it and we'll finish those little sparkles and glitter on the water, okay? And I can take my time. So don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying this so far. Again, thank you so much for my patrons for your support, and this is for you, my friends, as well. Okay, go and get a coffee or a cup of tea, and I'll be right back.